This episode contains some upsetting themes, including detailed stories of bereavement and baby loss from the very beginning.
You think about it all the time, and you think about how things were and how things are and where you're up to. You feel them before they arrive. Kit opened his eyes, which was incredible. You wouldn't have known there was anything wrong. It was a blur for the 2 hours that he survived. It felt like longer, to be honest, and the memory of it is longer. Teed him up a golf ball and on his little tree at the front door, wrote his name on it. And I think the thing that came in my head was that he'll never hit that ball.
I'm Trudy. I'm here today with Bill. We spoke to Andrea, his partner, a while ago about their bereavement journey, and Bill is going to share his story today.
It was at the 20-week scan, and there was just a few measurements that were a bit off with baby number 2. We didn't want to know what the sex was. We really wanted it to be a surprise. My job felt quite clear straight away to protect. So although I was concerned and worried by the measurements, by the tone of the environment, I was incredibly worried by that. My instant reaction was to, it's fine. Just don't worry about it. No, it's just they're slightly concerned, you know. And then as things progressed and we realised it was going to be it was a problem. We were given options, and obviously the options that you're given on, the initial option then was, you know, we really need to be able to find out what things are, but your head's like spinning with the situation you're in. You feel so hard done by that why are we in this situation? What have we done to deserve this? We try and listen and absorb as much as we can, but every time someone's speaking to you, it's just like sound coming out while you're just constantly wrapped up thinking, why am I going through this? Why am I sat in this room talking about this horrible situation that this is awful. What have I done?
Well, you're in the here and now, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, when it was like the state of mind that we were both in when it first happened, when it first came about, I think it was a blur. It was survival mode. For me, it was just survival mode. And we got the results of that, and his skeletal dysplasia was all to do with his rib cage. So his rib cage was, his heart took up 2/3 of his overall size of his rib cage. So it was apparent that at birth, he wouldn't be able to breathe. His lungs wouldn't be able to expand, which kept going round and round in my head because that sounds so cruel. That just really stuck in my head when someone told me that's how it was going to be. And you just get given a wholly unpalatable list of options to consider that you've got no qualifications to understand, or you can't process the horror of having to choose any of them, because in my mind, that was like being born and not being able to breathe. That struggle was cruel in my mind, and I didn't want that. I couldn't bear to face it. It would live with me for the rest of my life. Yeah. But it was a hard situation to be in, because I just felt like to be cruel to him on top of everything else was just not an option. And I was really strong on that.
It's your protective factor again.
Yeah, and it actually came, I suppose. But then it actually came to a head in, I think Steph, the bereavement nurse, managed to get us a consultation with a specialist. She managed to put it in words that I understood, that actually that's not how it'll be for him at all, because the way he breathes is nothing to do with how you feel about breathing and how you would feel about not being able to breathe. The way that he takes his first breath is the way that he breathes, as far as he knows. He's never done it before that. So that helped me understand that he wasn't going to be distressed or panicked. We were all just prepping us both and this, that and the other. And it was just, that was comfort, professionalism, order, and just experience of everyone just all being absolutely there together and knowing exactly, everyone knew exactly what they were doing, what they were there for, what they needed to do, and how it was all going to work. And it was all explained to Andrea as we were going. You're going to feel like this, and you're going to feel like this, and this is the next thing that's going to happen, and this is, you know, and it was perfect, and it worked. And we met Kit, and Chris and Rod, Andrea's mum and dad, were in the room, and they came in after the C-section, and Minnie had been taken out. I met Minnie like a little bit more than Andrea did at that point, just because she wanted Kit to be straight on her. Kit opened his eyes, which was incredible, knowing there was anything wrong. You know, it was just, he looked at peace, he looked fine. He didn't look in any sort of distress, so I was so relieved about that. And then it was a blur for the 2 hours that he survived. It felt like longer, to be honest, and the memory of it is longer. I managed to get my mum to come, and she lives up north, so she was able to get down. My mum met Kit, my next eldest brother met Kit, and my best friend Lee met Kit too.
And does it feel important that they all met him?
Yeah, it does. It is, because sometimes you wish it was all a dream, but you don't. It's real, and you wanted the people that mean everything to you to not to feel it. You don't want them to feel it. You don't ever want to push that on anyone, because it's not nice. But you sort of want them there for you, just someone else that can help you in the mire. So yeah, Kit was incredible, because he throughout the process, throughout all the bad news and everything else, you know, one of the things we desperately wanted to know was, you know, how long will he live? You know, because it would help us decide what we could do and how we could make those moments as special as they can possibly be. We desperately wanted a number, so we asked pretty much everyone we ever spoke to, you know, how long will he live? And the best that they could tell us with his condition, logically, between 5 and 30 minutes, was best guess. So we made that plan. We planned for that. And maybe one of the reasons it felt like longer was because he actually lasted for 2 hours, which was phenomenal. We've heard from, you know, doctors subsequently that have seen the upkeep of Minnie, and we've been around for Minnie, that have said that, you know, you need to know that he did you so proud there, because we would never have guessed 2 hours. And 2 hours on the strength of his heart alone, really, because his oxygen intake was critical from the start. It was, you know, his lips went blue within 10 minutes of him being born, and his heart carried on for 2 hours. It's amazing. He was a fighter, and he was, you know, and it was, that was incredible. He passed in my arms 2 hours after birth, and then it really, that's when it all began, really, I suppose. I don't know if to put it any better way, but that's when you start to change. Then, you know, that's when you don't feel the same. That day, the day of the birth and the evening of the birth, it was like a living nightmare. Just the way that you were feeling, and trying to fit the emotions into one container was impossible.
I think that's what amazes me about bereaved families, is what you do go through, but then seeing people through that journey and how they do come out at the other end. Yeah. And it does change you, but often it's not in a negative way. That's
the best way I can put it. Everything looks different. You can't, you know, you don't experience anything the same way as you did the day before after that point. And it's not that you don't experience good things in good ways. It's just that you're not the same. And that is true. That is really, really true. It isn't. Your human condition is not the same. You are in some ways better, in some ways worse. You are a more rounded person. You've been through more. You can cope with more, probably. There's not really many challenges in the world that me and Andrea would shy away from now, because why would we? You know, if we can go through that, we can go through anything, we can do anything.
It's a lovely way to frame it, though. It's almost a way of coping. It's taking something from what you're feeling to keep you connected. In
many ways, Minnie got us through that. In that first hours and evening after the birth day, that was just a living hell, because Minnie was in NICU, so she wasn't like she was close. And Andrea was absolutely beside herself. And Kit was still in the room. know he'd passed. And that was important for Andrea, for us both. Yeah, that was really tough. That was really tough. And then we got moved from there into the bereavement suite, and that's where we started to. We did feel like we were disconnected, like in an apartment on our own, to try and just work out what we're going to do. Very beginnings of what we're going to do. Like, not like we came to any realizations of what we're going to do at that point. We began to feel something that resembled a normal or more normal state. You know, the medical equipment's not as prevalent in your face there. You know, there's some normal amenity. There's a double bed for you to share. There's a garden, you know. I got I think it was the second or third night in there, I just got a Domino's just to feel a bit normal, just normality. I just wanted to sit in that, and, you know, I did that. And then it began to start feeling like there was a path home from there. The bereavement suite allowed us to start visualising a path to home. It became apparent to me that Andrew was kind of holding on to Kit as if he was still there. And obviously that wasn't to be. It was hard, but made bearable by the bereavement suite. That was absolutely vital, integral.
That's the bit we kind of put in place to protect you in those next steps before home. To have that space.
It does do that. So it's not that that's your home or it's actually this. It's a good transition from the clinical to the non-clinical that helps you then visualise a route to going home and really starting to cope with normality, resuming. And I think that's what it did for me. There was a few things that the bereavement suite facilitated, or the nursing staff facilitated, that I'll never forget and I'll always appreciate. One that really stands out, it was really well managed, and little subtle things that maybe Andrea wouldn't have picked up on. I spoke to the nursing staff and how Andrea had spoke, and she said what she thinks and how she feels and what she won't want to do. What we're talking about here is the handover of Kit to the funeral directors. And then I spoke to the staff and how we'd want to do it, and I arranged it with the funeral directors. But that was, without a doubt, the hardest thing that we've ever done together. It was the most terrifying, the most emotional time that you can imagine. Everything was just absolutely raw, and so, you're nerve-janglingly painful at every thought pattern. And the plan ended up being that we would, so the funeral directors dropped us a basket in. We had the basket on the bed in the bereavement suite. We bathed Kit, we dressed Kit, and we popped him in there with a few of his things, like his blanket that his nana had knitted him, and a few of his teddies and stuff like that. And then we were to say our goodbyes. I took him in the basket, and just that was horrendous. And as soon as we came back, Andrea had wanted to go to see Minnie, because we knew we'd need to do that. And it was just, every step of the basket felt like I was about 50 stone heavier. It was just like walking through treacle to even do it. And Andrea was left in the bereavement suite, dropped the basket, and then straight away came back to Andrea. And the staff had basically not blocked off a corridor for that 10-minute period that we were doing it. They'd stopped access to the corridor in direct connection with NICU, because we were in a hell of a state. Yeah. And we were just making our way through this corridor, and we didn't want to be seen. But I hadn't planned that. I hadn't arranged that. They took it upon themselves to do that. We'd had discussions of what we're going to do. Said, right, so today's the day we're going to do this, and this is what's going to happen. So just be aware, probably going to be a mess, but we're going to, at this time, Kit's going, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to go and see Minnie. And that's the only conversation we'd had. But the bereavement staff had taken it upon themselves to make that path public free. I really appreciated that, because that had been something that I'd played on my mind, that everyone would see us both in floods of tears, very emotional state, in the height of pain, really, for want of a better phrase. But they sort of took it upon themselves and it was, sort of the familiar face nurses that we knew were blocking off the corridors as we walked past. It was like a weird guard of honour. But I appreciated it for the fact that we didn't have to apologise. It was unapologetically just raw.
I think that's what amazes me about bereaved families is what you do go through, but then seeing people through that journey and how they do come out at the other end.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we've felt like we were out of the woods, until, I don't know. I don't know if we do. I don't know if we did. I don't know if we do still. I think we do. I think he's fine, but it's certainly in the early stages, we've just carried on. And I suppose, what we started out talking about is the unforeseen ways that things grab you thereafter. And that's the things that you find difficult might surprise you as well. You don't know what you find difficult or what challenges present in front of you, because you don't know that it's a challenge until it happens. An example of how things that seem like the most important thing in the world aren't, and there's always loads of points of perspective with that. It just keeps coming and getting you with things that are important that aren't important. And that's a major thing. Yeah, major thing that I've learned is that what you can cope with as a person, what challenges can be thrown your way, and then you do come out the other end.
I think that's what I always feel when I see families and I see the journey that they're on and what they're doing and how they've coped and how they've managed things.
The fact that you can find positives out of it that blows my mind. The fact that you can find positives in a situation like that. I mean, if you had have told me that at the time, I would never have believed you. But the fact that you can come out the other end of it is like, makes you proud. The protective side was what got me through. And as that dissipates as a need or a want, I become more susceptible. But outwardly, I look at Andrea and the way that she coped and continued and moved forwards, and to see how she's managed that's amazing. It's incredible. And again, something that very much brings us together as a family, as a unit, as a partnership, is because the respect for how someone can go through what we've been through, but how she can go through what she's been through and come out the other end as the person that she's always been, but with more out of that is quite incredible,
But you both seem to have done that.
Well, I don't know. But it's like I said at the start. I had this protective umbrella on me that I was there to do a job, and that protected me from the full force of it. But now I feel more and more every time I grow a bond with Minnie, I grow a bond with Kit and everything that happens. And if I felt the full force of the bonds that I have with Kit because of Minnie now, then I don't know how well I would have coped. As I've got more bonds with Minnie, every single bond I get with Minnie gives me another bond with Kit. And that's just something that I never realised would happen. He's got his own little personality with me all the time. I'm driving around and I'm talking to him. He's like my angel on my shoulder, but the bonds are there, they're grown with there.
I think that's sometimes how it works as a couple though, because almost when one of you is lower, the other needs to be stronger, and then it alternates as the journey goes. And it does seem to go that way. I just wanted to say, Bill, thank you so much for being so honest and sharing everything with us.
Thank you so much for having us and having us on to talk about it. It's been good to talk.
Worcestershire Acute Hospitals Charity is proud to be working with maternity teams through our Hold the Moment maternity appeal. The appeal will enhance maternity services across Worcestershire, including the bereavement suite at Worcestershire Royal Hospital. To find out more about the appeal or to show your support, please visit our website wahcharity.org/moments.